Ukrainian President Zelensky's visit to Washington was supposed to be a triumph. Instead, it became infamous for a fiery confrontation in the Oval Office. President Trump, Vice President Vance, and Zelensky clashed over a proposed deal regarding Ukrainian rare earth minerals. Tensions were high. Zelensky felt pressured to concede ground. Trump and Vance believed Zelensky wasn't showing enough appreciation for U.S. support. The meeting, meant to finalize a deal, ended in disarray. The proposed deal involved Ukrainian mineral rights. These rare earth minerals are essential for advanced technology. The U.S. wants to secure these resources. The deal would grant American companies access to these valuable minerals. In return, Ukraine would receive economic benefits. The U.S. argued this deal would strengthen ties between the two nations. However, Zelensky felt the deal didn't adequately address Ukraine's security concerns. He wanted ironclad guarantees against Russian aggression. The disagreement over security guarantees became a sticking point. Zelensky insisted on concrete assurances from the U.S. He argued that Ukraine was vulnerable to Russian retaliation. He wanted a commitment from the U.S. to intervene if Russia violated any ceasefire agreement. Trump and Vance pushed back on these demands. They argued that the mineral deal itself provided a form of security. Their logic, the economic partnership, would make it in America's interest to defend Ukraine. The Oval Office meeting exposed the deep divisions between the parties. Zelensky left Washington empty-handed and frustrated. The much-anticipated deal was on hold. The future of U.S.-Ukraine relations was uncertain. The confrontation left many wondering, could a deal ever be salvaged, and at what cost? House Speaker Mike Johnson didn't mince words. He was deeply disappointed in Zelensky's conduct. He echoed the sentiments of Trump and Vance. Johnson believed Zelensky wasn't showing enough gratitude for the billions in aid the U.S. had provided. He criticized Zelensky's behavior in the Oval Office. Johnson claimed Zelensky was disrespectful, interrupting and berating President Trump. Johnson demanded that Zelensky change his tune. He urged the Ukrainian president to return to the negotiating table with a more cooperative attitude. He insisted Zelensky acknowledge the importance of the U.S.-Ukraine relationship. Johnson warned that if Zelensky couldn't secure a deal, he should step aside. He suggested that someone more willing to negotiate should take Zelensky's place. Johnson's comments reflect a growing frustration within the Republican Party. Many Republicans believe the U.S. has already done enough to help Ukraine. They're wary of making further commitments, particularly security guarantees. They argue that the U.S. needs to prioritize its own interests. They see the mineral deal as a way to benefit both countries without putting American troops at risk. The stalled peace deal has put Zelensky in a difficult position. He's caught between pressure from the U.S. and the very real threat from Russia. He needs American support to resist Russian aggression. But he's unwilling to accept a deal that leaves Ukraine vulnerable. The question now is whether Zelensky can find a way to satisfy both his own people and his powerful ally. The collapse of the Oval Office meeting has put the brakes on the peace process. The deal, meant to pave the way for a ceasefire and eventual peace treaty, is now on indefinite hold. This stalemate has raised concerns about a potential escalation of the conflict. Without a deal, Ukraine remains vulnerable to Russian aggression. Zelensky has been adamant in his demand for security guarantees. He wants a clear commitment from the U.S. to come to Ukraine's aid if Russia violates a ceasefire agreement. He argues that these guarantees are essential for any lasting peace. He fears that without them, Russia will be emboldened to launch further attacks. However, the U.S. has been hesitant to provide the kind of ironclad security guarantees Zelensky seeks. They argue that such a commitment would be tantamount to a security pact, which would require congressional approval. They're also wary of being drawn into a direct conflict with Russia. This impasse over security guarantees has become a major obstacle to peace. Zelensky sees them as essential for Ukraine's survival. The U.S. views them as a potential trap that could lead to a wider war. Finding a solution that addresses both sides' concerns will be crucial for ending the conflict and securing a lasting peace in the region. The proposed mineral rights deal is about more than just rare earth minerals. It's about money, influence, and America's strategic interests. The U.S. sees Ukraine's vast mineral reserves as a potential gold mine. These minerals are essential for everything from smartphones to electric cars to military equipment. Securing access to these resources is a top priority for the U.S. The Biden administration argues that the deal would be a win-win for both countries. It would give the U.S. a reliable source of these critical minerals. It would also provide Ukraine with a much-needed economic boost. The deal could create jobs and stimulate growth in the war-torn country. However, the deal has become entangled in domestic politics. Republicans have seized on the issue to attack the Biden administration's handling of the economy. They argue that the deal is a bailout for Ukraine that will cost American jobs. They've also criticized the administration for not doing enough to secure American access to these critical minerals. The budget reconciliation bill recently passed by the House adds another layer of complexity to the issue. The bill includes $2 trillion in spending cuts. Republicans argue that these cuts are necessary to rein in government spending and reduce the deficit. Democrats counter that the cuts will harm working families and undermine the social safety net. The debate over the budget is likely to further complicate efforts to reach a deal on Ukrainian mineral rights.